way that we experience time is very illusionary. And so the space-time construct that we experience is an illusion because at a more fundamental level, it's not how the universe is operating. Fundamental level, there is no time. So our experience of a linear sequence of time with a unidirectional linear sequence of time is illusionary. But as Albert Einstein geniusly, brilliantly said, time is an illusion, but a very persistent one. But then also space, the idea of separation between objects is very illusionary.
Yes. Yeah.
That our perception is limited by what we can see, and so what we can see is restricted to this tiny little narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, if you could see in frequencies or wavelengths outside of that tiny little band of the electromagnetic spectrum, the world would look very different. If you could see in radio waves, you would see space filled with energy, the radio frequency energy, the cosmic microwave background radiation, just an ever-present field of electromagnetic energy. Then going in the other direction to smaller wavelengths, higher energy, higher frequency, if you could get to high enough frequency, especially like approaching the Planck frequency, which is about the highest frequency for our particular domain, you would not see independent objects at all. It would be a sea of energy of discrete Planck spherical units that comprise the Planck energy density. And so, when you're looking at an object in the room, that to your senses in that little narrow bandwidth of electromagnetic spectrum seems distant and separate and apart from you. If you could see at, say, like the Planck scale resolution, you would see that there is no separation whatsoever, that there's a continuous substance connecting you and this separate object, and it's nearly seamless. There are some energetic boundary conditions and information surfaces that just have give some distinction between the two. Then if you go to the quantum level, you would also see that part of that Planck plasma fluid medium, that is the quantum vacuum, that is 0-point energy, is forming tubes, vortices, that are directly connecting you with the objects around you at the particle level. So the particles that comprise your body are connected via literal vortices to particles that comprise the material of other objects. Now, when we're able to quantify that and observe that kind of connection, like in a laboratory type setting, it's called quantum entanglement. But it's really that objects that might appear separate in the illusionary domain of the illusionary construct of space-time are not separate, because that's somewhat illusionary. If you go to a more fundamental level, they are connected. And so
okay.
Yes. So that gets into like the description of the space memory network, how information is encoded and voxels, so three-dimensional informational units, which is synonymous with the Planck spherical units.
Okay.
And so that fundamentally, you have a timeless, eternal structure, let's just say, system, and it has a very specific informational content, a very specific information connectivity pattern or network. And from that, you get the holographic projection. So it's a hologram of a temporal domain, of a unidirectional linear sequence of time. But that's where you get a holographic universe, is that, in a hologram, the information of an object is encoded on the surface of a 2D plate. It's not really 2D, there's thickness to it, but it's a flat plate that encodes via wave interference the information of a three-dimensional object, and when you shine light through it, it'll totally recreate that three-dimensional object from a two-dimensional encoding. So that's analogous to at a more fundamental level how our universe is arranged, in that you have a timeless, eternal, three-dimensional voxel interconnected spatial structure network, and so
The
it's a lower dimension.
spherical units you mean the Planck spherical units like overlaying each other and creating that triangulation? Is that what you're talking about?
Forming wave interference patterns, as well as with collective behavior, collective ordering behavior, like vortices, dual torus vortex structures that connect across the 3D space. In terms of like general relativity, you'd call those Einstein-Rosen bridges or wormholes. So a micro wormhole network. In terms of quantum mechanics, you would call it a entanglement structure. I call it the entanglement nexus.
Okay.
Because all things are connected or entangled at this level of that at that more fundamental level. So it's a lower dimensional encoding of information that holographically projects a higher dimensional construct that is 4D spacetime.
Okay.
But 4D spacetime is a holographic projection of a 3D information network.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And you would call that 3D information network the mind of the universe, right?
Yeah. Well, in our publication, the Unified Space Memory Network, we do describe, although somewhat provisionally, we do describe the mechanics and dynamics of how that 3D information network, which we also call, we give it the moniker space memory, because it's not time. It's a spatial arrangement, a geometric arrangement of information. And that's what produces time, space-time. It's space memory, more fundamentally. But we do describe the mechanics and dynamics of how that, in a sense, engenders sentience, because part of the information connectivity and exchanges occurring in that network are all what generate some of the primary elements of a mind. I think actually in my paper, Unified Physics and the Entanglement Nexus of Awareness, I delineate some 5 primary characteristics that comprise a mind and engender sentience. Again, somewhat provisionally, it's not meant to be the end all be all.
Right.
But it's kind of like a guide that if you can identify these 5 properties and in a system, that system is
A mind.
a mind. Yeah. It has mind-like characteristics.